Vă spun bun găsit, doamnelor și domnilor, la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Viitorul Medicina Holistică, alături de doamna doctor Florinela Balan, în Clinica Medicală Aura Vita. Doamna doctor, știm deja că ființele umane au această capacitate de a crea ce este în jurul lor. Omul sfințește locul, adică îl transformă.
Exact așa. Trebuie să știți că ființele umane au la început așa un fel de viziune și apoi o materializează, o transformă. Noi creăm această realitate în jurul nostru. Dar antenele umane, știți că am avut emisiuni trecute în care spuneam despre ființele umane că sunt asemenea unor antene umane. Deci, cu alte cuvinte, aceste antene umane, ființe umane, de fapt, ele sunt un fel de procesare duale, adică noi de fapt avem două funcționalități, aceea de emisie, dar și de recepție.
Ce recepționăm?
În funcția noastră de a recepționa, noi recepționăm informații direct din câmpul sursă, câmpul electromagnetic.
Ce rol are acest câmp?
Am spus și în alte emisiuni, în emisiunea trecută în special, ne susține metabolismul și toate funcțiile, prin forța vitală sau numită energia vieții, da? Ce curge prin noi prin chakre și prin meridiane și ajunge până la organe și până la celule. Deci, cu alte cuvinte, câmpul sursă ne ajută să funcționăm.
Și cum emitem?
Cum emitem, adică cum creăm. Păi o să vedeți în emisiunea de astăzi, pentru că o să vedeți că emitem foarte colorat. Foarte colorat, deci deși folosim decât o fracțiune, adică foarte puțin, din tot spectrul electromagnetic care există de fapt.
We might think of color as a fundamental defining quality of the world around us. After all, it's everywhere. But here's the startling thing. In the outside world, color doesn't actually exist. When electromagnetic radiation hits an object, some of it bounces off and is captured by our eyes. We can distinguish between millions of combinations of wavelengths, but it's only inside our heads that any of this becomes color. Add to that the fact that the wavelengths we can detect are only a small part of what's out there.
You experience reality as it's presented by your senses, and it doesn't typically strike you that things could be very different. What we've been talking about so far is what we call the visible spectrum of light, which is a spectrum of wavelengths that runs from what we call red to violet. But it turns out that this only constitutes a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. In fact, less than 1/10 trillionth of it. So all the rest of the spectrum, including radio waves and microwaves and X-rays and gamma rays, all of this stuff is flowing through our bodies right now, and we're completely unaware of it because we don't have any specialized biological receptors to pick up on it. So what this means is that the part of reality that we can see is totally limited by our biology.
The most complex thing we've discovered in the universe is the human brain. For the past 20 years, I've been trying to understand what happens in 3 pounds of jello-like material somehow becomes us. What we feel, what matters to us, our beliefs and our hopes, everything we are happens in here. And for me, there's one mystery that's absolutely fundamental. What is reality?
What if I told you that this world around us, this richly textured world, we're all just an illusion constructed in your head?
What if I said that the real world has no smell or taste, no sound? What if I said there's no color?
If you could perceive reality as it really is out there, you wouldn't recognize it at all.
I want to show you how the brain takes in information, sifts through it to find patterns, and uses it to build the multisensory Technicolor show that is your reality.
When I'm in the world, my senses are flooded with sights and sounds and smells, and it seems obvious that reality is just out there. There's a person, there's a cab. All I have to do is show up, and my senses let me experience it all.
But there's a twist to this story. Let me show you something.
So take a look at this middle square here. Does that look more similar to the light square or the dark? Well, it looks like a light square, yeah? You might be surprised if I move it. Now it looks like a dark square.
Oh my god, it is the same.
Oh, it's surprising, right?
It is. Ah. Oh my goodness.
Wow, you're ready.
Seriously?
Yeah. Do you have a guess as to why there's an illusion here?
Well, it seems like there's a shadow, so it makes this darker.
That's exactly right. Your brain is trying to understand the colors of things irrespective of the lighting and the shadows. So somehow it's not about what's hitting your eyes, it's about your brain's interpretation.
That's really trippy. You just messed up my whole day.
Now, this is about more than just a visual illusion. It's about a fact that's central to our lives.
Our perception of reality has less to do with what's happening out there and more to do with what's happening in here.
To understand what's going on, we first need to know how information from the world around us gets into the brain. It feels as if sights and sounds just stream in through our eyes and our ears. But imagine if you could climb inside a human skull.
When you step into the skull, you'll find there's no way for light or sound or smells to get directly in here.
This is a sealed chamber. So the brain sits in darkness and in silence. It's in total isolation.
Your brain's never seen the outside world, but somehow you experience it. Now, this might seem straightforward because we have portals to the outside world, like your eyes and ears, but these aren't just piping in sights and sounds. Instead, photons of light or air compression waves, these are getting converted into the common currency of the brain, electrochemical signals.
These signals travel through dense networks of brain cells called neurons. There are 100 billion neurons in the human brain, and in every second of your life, each one of these is sending tens or hundreds of electrical pulses to thousands of other neurons.
And somehow, all of this activity produces your sense of reality. So whether it's the bark of a dog or the smell of coffee or a view of a beautiful sunset, it's all made of the same stuff in here.
And this is the stuff of reality. But how does the brain turn it into something meaningful? Well, it does it by sifting through the non-stop stream of incoming data to find patterns which it then assembles into a reality. It's an operation which is the product of millions of years of evolution. So efficient, so powerful, that its work seems effortless and instantaneous. take as an example sight.
The act of seeing feels so natural that it's hard to appreciate the vast, sophisticated machinery running under the hood.
For us to see clearly, many different systems need to be operating in concert. It's about more than just the eyes. The best way to understand this is to look at the extraordinary case of a man who lost his sight and then was given the chance to get it back.
I lost my sight when I was 3.5 years old as the result of a chemical explosion. And oddly, it doesn't seem like it was a big deal. I guess as a 3.5-year-old, my world, according to vision, was not as well established as it would be for somebody who lost their vision later in life.
After over 40 years of blindness, Mike May had pioneering stem cell treatment that would repair the physical damage that the explosion caused to his eyes. Cameras were there to witness the moment when, for the first time, the bandages came off.
Dr. Goodman does the cornea transplant, and he peels back the bandages. Sure can. He gets them all the way off, and there's this whoosh of light and bombarding of images onto my eye.
Holy smoke.
In surgical terms, the operation was a total success.
What's across the room over here?
But to Mike, it wasn't. There was something wrong.
All of a sudden, you turn on this flood of visual information. It's overwhelming. My brain is just going, oh my gosh. So that's how the world proceeded, one image at a time, seeing cars as they whizzed by, and then I would see a sign ahead of us and it looked like we were going to smack right into it. And in fact, it's a sign over the freeway, and we're not going to run into it, we're going under it. And that was only the first hour.
It was going to get worse when Mike got home.
If you put 4 blonde boys together, all roughly the same height, and I looked at them, I couldn't tell you which 2 were mine.
Don't go away, I'm not finished looking at you.
Mike's new eyes were functioning perfectly, and they were sending signals to the brain just like yours or mine do. But he couldn't see his sons in any meaningful way.
I had no face recognition whatsoever. None.
When he'd been totally blind, Mike was a Paralympic skier. But his first sighted attempt at skiing was a complete failure.
When I skied for the first time, because of my depth perception difficulty, I had no time to figure out the difference between 4 dark things on the white snow. A person, a tree, shadow, or a hole.
Ten years on, Mike still needs his guide dog to get around. He can detect light and motion and identify colors, but he struggles to gauge how far away things are. He still can't read the expressions on his sons' faces. He still can't read words on a page. What Mike's story gives us is a glimpse of all the elements that have to be in place for the brain to construct a visual reality. Many regions of the brain are involved in vision. They specialize in different aspects, such as motion, edges, colors, face recognition. Somehow the brain weaves all of this together, unifies it, to form what we experience as an image.
Imaginile din jurul nostru pe care le percepem, am văzut că sunt rezultatul unor activități cerebrale complexe.
Sigur că da. Vorbim despre cel mai mare organ din corp și anume cel mai performant de fapt și anume creierul, că cel mai mare organ este pielea, apropo, dar cel mai performant este creierul, dar și de cel mai complex sistem din corp și anume sistemul nervos. Și pe de altă parte și cel mai afectat, dacă bătem topuri aici, trebuie să știți că bolile a sistemului nervos sunt la modă, sunt cele mai, ca statistică, cele mai ridicate și vă dau un exemplu, depresia, care este boala secolului.
Deci putem privi realitatea prin ochii noștri?
Trebuie să știți că este o iluzie această propoziție, o să vedeți. Pentru că imaginile vizuale și transmisiile telepatice, adică informațiile care le primim, sunt legate de ceva mic, foarte mic, cât un bob de mazăre, și este localizată, pentru că vorbim de o ea, în centrul geometric al creierului și este numită glanda pineală.
Near the center of the brain, we find a tiny pine cone-shaped gland, which may be one of the most wondrous parts of our physical body. We know that the pineal gland produces serotonin and melatonin, neurotransmitters which regulate waking and sleeping cycles, as well as playing a crucial role in mood. But it may also be true that the pineal produces DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, a neurotransmitter which creates a natural psychedelic state of consciousness. If so, then this little gland plays not only a crucial role in our psychological well-being, but it may hold the key for unlocking the true potential of humanity.
In this gland, there is floating water, a reservoir of water, with crystals that actually have piezoelectric properties. There's also another thing called piezoluminescence. If you have a little lighter and you hit the lighter and then you get that little spark that comes out, that's from a crystal being compressed. And as the crystal is compressed, it releases photons. in your brain, you have these little floating crystals that actually have that quality. And even better than that is there is another characteristic called piezochromism. Piezochromatic crystals are crystals that can release any color of light in the rainbow. Dimethyltryptamine is the main chemical that seems to do this. When DMT is chipped out of a tray that it was synthesized in, you hit it with a screwdriver, bam, you get these big bursts of colored light. Big burst of red, big burst of green, big burst of yellow, big burst of blue. Well, you have these little crystals floating in your brain.
DMT is this, dimethyltryptamine. It's what the theory is that it's what's released by the pineal gland that gives us these elevated states of insight.
Maybe DMT is the lens of our pineal gland, allowing us to see wider areas of reality than are normally accessible to our senses.
You remember that image of like a Buddha with the halo? There's always a halo around the Buddha's head, or Jesus. People say there's a cross behind him in that halo, but it's the beams of light. It's exactly what you can learn or remember to activate.
Many ancient esoteric traditions and mystical schools knew of the potential of the pineal. The ancient Greeks believed it to be our connection to the realms of thought. Buddhists know it as a symbol of spiritual awakening. In Hinduism, the pineal connects with the third eye chakra, the seat of intuition and clairvoyance. Jesus proclaimed that the eye is the lamp of the body, so then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. If René Descartes is right, and the pineal gland is indeed the seat of the human soul, then these traditions are correct in believing that it serves as the connecting link between the physical and spiritual worlds.
How did they know about the third eye? Because each chakra connects in to an organ. So what fascinates me is the sixth chakra plugs into the pineal gland. The pineal gland has photoreceptors on it. And yet they knew that thousands of years ago before they ever knew that there were photoreceptors on the pineal. So that to me, it shows you that we know a lot more in the past than we even do now with our technology.
The pineal gland is lined on the inside with tissue called pinealocytes. These pinealocytes are similar to the rods and cones in the retina of your eye. That's right, it's the third eye. Your brain has a third eye in the center, and it has retinal tissue. It also has the same wiring as your physical eyes do to the visual cortex in your brain. How did they know that all the way back then? That would imply very advanced technology that would have been required for them to gain such incredible information about the brain. And yet they did. And so think about what that means. If you have little crystals that can vibrate and release all the colors of the rainbow, and people claim when they go out of body or have a near-death experience that they see a silver cord. There is a cord linking their astral body to their physical body.
Indeed, it appears that the pineal gland is our connection to higher dimensions, giving us access to the psychic and spiritual realms. If this is true, then humanity is upon the precipice of a greater awakening as a whole. But this awakening does not come without its challenges and oppositions.
It's well known that fluoride interferes with functioning of your endocrine system, the glands. These glands are the gateways to spiritual connection, to energetic layers. And I think what's really going on here is that fluoride shuts the door to spiritual connection.
So if you kind of keep the brain locked down, whether it's fluoride in the water, shut down the pineal, aluminum to disrupt the nervous system, these artificial sweeteners, then we're just in a pen.
We clearly are not as aware as we could be of our potential and are not living a life that probably is as healing or as generous or as nurturing as we're capable of doing.
This is why you get so many people today who are somehow convinced, and mainstream science is teaching this, that you are nothing but a biological skin bag, and that you do not have any existence beyond the physical. You have no consciousness, you have no spirit, no free will, and when you die, you're dead and gone, and that's permanent. That's a very dangerous philosophy.
And we are dealing with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ADHD, all of these neurological diseases. And so I think there's a concerted effort to dumb down the population so that when they figure these things out, they're paralyzed and don't know what to do, don't know how to respond, or simply can't grasp the concept that it is happening, which is the bigger picture.
In the book of Revelation, people that have the mark of the beast on the forehead, that's the closed down pineal gland, the closed down third eye that prevents them from having access to the cosmic nature of who they are, and that will be transformed. That's a very important part of what's going on here. Spiritual death is transformed into enlightenment, and it will happen in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye.
Despite exposure to toxins in our environment and various chemicals in our heavily processed diets, humanity is still awakening. Every day, the light of a new eon shines upon us, bringing with it an unexpected source of enlightenment.
What people don't realize is that your consciousness is governed by light, and the pineal gland is the center of consciousness.
The brain chemistry works in accordance with this. So when you wake up in the morning and the receptors in the back of your eye pick up light, the moment that happens, your optic nerve sends a signal to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland starts making serotonin. And serotonin is the daytime neurotransmitter.
This is all brain chemistry. Light hits your eyes, hits pineal gland, changes chemicals inside your brain. Serotonin suddenly erupts in your brain. You get happy. That's all part of consciousness, and it's all guided by the sun.
The energy of the Earth is higher than it was in 2012, and it will continue to increase. All of the solar storms that are bombarding our Earth has been proven to create psychoactive experience.
And so the color of light changes your consciousness. And if the sun is changing, then it's possible that our consciousness is changing.
And it's all, I believe, part of this greater awakening that we're going through at this time. This pineal gland activation, you could call it that. You could call it the coming golden age. You could call it the energetic shift that we're going through at this time.
It could be that the changing nature of the sun over the last 20 years is what's causing the great awakening that's happening.
I take the same data that the universities have garnered and draw a different conclusion. Their conclusion may be that an anionic ratio change creates hallucinations. Therefore, the hallucinations are not real. I take those studies and say that the anionic ratio change opens doors within the pineal and allows us to have multi-dimensional experiences.
Knowing that the pineal gland plays a key role to our spiritual evolution, we must undertake the noble effort to make sure our third eye stays open so that we stay connected with the higher realms of being.
There is a misconception, I think, for many people that the human auric field is automatically managed. It is not. It requires maintenance. And there are keys and responsibilities to maintaining our auric field.
That's why people that are older are like, they lose a bit the joie de vivre. You know, they lose a bit the joy of life. So what you can learn very simply by realizing that all that is in your body and that you can reconnect to it is that you will start to create alpha waves. That's the first step. Then if you've learned how to create these alpha waves, then you can realign all the rest of your head. You know, your pineal gland, your pineal chakra, your pituitary chakra. You can realign everything, and then actually you can open up your third eye. You can reactivate these beams of light. You'll be much more psychic, so telepathic. You'll receive more, you'll be much more sensitive. So in the beginning you get this blast. You're like, whoa, you know, the world is opening up. But after a while, you will just get used to it. It will be normal. So in day-to-day life, yes, it's useful. At the same time, it will become normal.
For the first time in history, humanity as a whole is being presented with the opportunity to unlock the dormant potential that's swirling inside each of us. By avoiding toxins, getting sunlight, and undertaking various forms of meditation, one may improve the overall performance of this tiny little gland and bear witness to the greatest secrets of the universe.